Hey folks, it's Marvin Cash, the host of the Articulate Fly. We're back with another Casting Angles with Mac Brown. Mac, how are you?
I'm doing great, Marvin. How are you doing?
As always, I'm just trying to stay out of trouble. And, we were talking before we started recording. You had a really good casting school this past weekend.
Oh, yeah. It was really, when I think back, Tony and I talked a lot about it Sunday night when it was over. And I really think it was one of the funner groups I've seen in a very long time. And they were all really, really talented, really receptive and malleable and on that path of growth, so it made it really rewarding for the 2 days with them. And that was fun. We got to go out on the town of Bryson on Saturday night, and that was a lot of fun. Eat dinner and listen to live music. And that made it special too, just the camaraderie of the whole group together,
Yeah, absolutely. And it's kind of a good thing too. We were also talking, it's kind of funny. So I'm in Charlotte, and I guess the tropical depression hurricane that came through the Gulf last week is getting here. We're going to get about 2 inches of rain, and you're not going to get much of anything, which is, been kind of the story for the last, 2 months in your neck of the woods. So the creeks are low, so it's good to have something to do maybe other than fishing, right?
It is. That doesn't look like we're going to get any out of this one still. I don't think we were predicted to get any. And it's like, yeah, it's really low. Everything's about as low as I've seen it in a long time. Like really long time, maybe 20 years. It's like I haven't seen it this low. So it's good. This is setting up for a really technical fall.
Yeah, which is good. If you like the challenge, and it's funny too, because we were talking, it was a couple of reports back. I think we were talking about the fact that the main Trout Hatchery is going to close down for renovations for a while. And you were like, well, I don't want to talk about it because, I haven't read anything about it, just kind of what I've heard. And there was actually an email that came out in the last week or so from the state fish and game folks. And, I can kind of give folks a little bit of an update if you want me to.
Yeah, that'd be great. Because there's lots of different rumors saying the state was going to buy the same number in stock. And then a lot of them said that, no, it wasn't. It was going to be reduced. So, yeah, I'd like to hear it because I didn't see that email.
Yeah, and I'll drop a link to it. It's from the website. But the short version is, stockings are normal through 2024, and then they're going to shut down the hatchery. And the hatchery we're talking about is that big hatchery that's on the Davidson River. And that's the hatchery that provides most of the trout for the state of North Carolina. And so they're going to renovate that. And they're expecting stockings to be reduced by 65% for 2025 and 2026, maybe into early 2027. So, the state they're in the process of negotiating, buying fish from other states and from private people, but there are really only so many. And, the short of the article is, even once the hatchery's back online, it's going to take a while to grow stockable size fish. And so we may not be back to kind of 2024 levels until 2029.
Yeah, that's several years out too. That's really going to affect a lot of the state with that long of a closure.
Yeah, and so I guess what I would say from an advice perspective is to probably pay more attention than usual to stocking schedules. And, what the state is saying in this article is that they're going to basically continue to stock hatchery supported and delayed harvest water, and they're going to kind of ratably spread the fish out.
Mm-hmm.
So, we're going to have significantly lower numbers of fish. And so, that's going to be a big difference if you get, a third of what you're expecting to get in like January 2025.
Yeah, well, that'll affect everything. The bobber lobbers are in trouble, Marvin. So they're going to be in trouble because they're not going over the same number. They might have to learn a new technique.
They could come to one of your schools, Mac Brown.
Well, with it this low is what I'm saying. It's like that is true. Like this fall, I know a lot of just the only reason I say that, I'm not really making fun of that. I'm just saying the majority, 90% of the stuff you see up here with trips, so that's what people do. And with the water this low and to have a golf ball splat on the surface with the water as low as it is, that's going to make it even tougher, especially during a low water event. You probably don't want to have a golf ball splatting down,
Yeah. So, what I would say, right, if you're in like low technical fall fishing, one probably at most, probably a yarn indicator, right?
Yeah, yarn or dry dropper, using the dry, you could use some dry flies that are bigger, but like, rabbit's foot, you could use rabbit's foot. Just pick some high floatability flies like the snowshoe rabbit foot flies are really good in the fall when it's low because it lands like I like to fish a dry. I just like having something up there in case they happen to look up, because there's a lot of times in the fall, Marvin, where they'll hit the little poly indicator a bunch, and it's like, then you think, wow, why didn't I put a hook on it? But the poly indicators get a lot of strikes when they're orange in the fall because of the orange caddis that happens. So you'll see a lot of orange poly getting hit. So you might as well years ago, I did this a lot out there. Literally, I'd take poly, and the whole pattern that I'm fishing for the indicator was just poly, like a poly wing F-style, an F-style dry fly of just poly lashed to a hook. There's nothing else on it. There's no dubbing. There's no hackle. There's no anything. That would be the indicator. And it was shocking how many fish you'd catch on the indicator fly, which was literally an indicator. So, yeah, having a little hook on it, little dry fly wire, is probably better off than just having poly with not anything on it,
Yeah, I'm a big fan of either orange elk hair caddis or stimulators, kind of if I was going to do the dry dropper thing this time of year.
Oh, for sure. Because the stimulator, especially in like a size 12, that's really the perfect size matching the orange caddis. You start seeing those usually about middle of October, and you'll see them all the way up till about middle of November. And that's probably my favorite pattern for that time of year.
Yeah. And then I guess we would also say, right, longer, thinner leaders is another way to go, and to probably start your presentations upstream of the fish to give yourself a little bit more time to get your act together, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, especially with the slow water, like long and fine setups are going to be king for sure. I mean, I don't think having them short's very good advice for anybody, for any technique. Like, to have it really short, as low as it is, it's so low that I think it was last Wednesday I went up Slick Rock on the Tennessee state line. I ended up hiking. I didn't even fish but one little spot. And I mean, I'd never seen it that low. It was literally, the big waterfall called Wildcat Falls up there. It was just a little trickle coming over the falls. We used to kayak it a lot when it would flood back in the 80s. But I walked all the way back up from the lake at Calderwood Lake, almost to Joyce Kilmer, where that headwater of Slick Rock forms. And I ended up just doing a hike up the river and then back out just to see it, because it's a nice place to hike. I was more doing a hike, I guess you could say. But I've never seen it that low. And it's the same thing with a lot of these creeks around. Right now, it's just kind of low, excessively low. So, yeah, lengthening out the setup is going to be huge. And also reducing weight, like people will open a box and it's got their favorite, whatever their pattern is in there with weight. And it's like, right now you want to be fishing, a whole lot lighter, because just the fact of the weight going in there makes a huge disturbance at this level. So if you had a 4-millimeter mop fly that you fished in the spring and you wanted to do it now, a lot of the mops I'm fishing this time of year are unweighted. It's just the weight of the hook. Because, the material's neutral density, so you throw it in, it's still going to sink to the bottom real quick. It's not going to disturb stuff when it hits as much as having a bead, So a lot of things, too, like brass, brass gets a bad rap nowadays. Everybody thinks tungsten. It's like, I would go to brass, because brass is about half the weight of lead. So fishing a lot of brass flies that are small right now are perfect, for small flies. We're still using a lot of small flies, but brass is like, I don't know. I think brass is underutilized, to be honest, because I fish a lot of brass this time of year.
Yeah, or even small nymphs with glass beads, right?
Oh, yeah, glass could be good, too, especially going into early winter when we get the baetis and a lot of the baetis activity. There's a lot of times we'll use like little purple beads or clear beads for baetis just to have a little bit different pop on it, So I like glass quite a bit. That's a fantastic, but that's going to really affect. Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what happens with all these big outings and, and trips, and then be interesting to see, because I don't know really how much it'll affect. I mean, it definitely will affect the fishing as far as like tourism and saying, oh, we're going to Georgia or we're going to Tennessee. I don't think so, because I don't think it's such a destination with 13.5 million people a year visiting the park. I don't think they're at home looking about, did they stock or didn't they stock? They're going to probably learn it after they're here, Because I don't think most people will know that coming either. So I wonder how much it affects. It's what I'm saying.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. I mean, I think probably to me the the best defense is a good offense. And so I would say, one way to approach this is, at some level it's going to be more challenging, right? Because you're going to have fewer fish,
for sure.
Right? And, my general, I mean, you've done construction, I've done construction finance. Very rarely do things CO on time, right? So I would imagine that this hatchery project is going to take longer than they think it's going to take.
It's like the highway in Asheville they've been working on for 15 years. Yeah.
Yeah. And so that just
like on 26.
Yeah, it just is. It is what it is. But what I would say is then maybe the approach to take is, try to kind of break things down and, take advantage of having fewer fish that are going to be, in theory, better educated because they're going to get caught a lot more, and, kind of come up with a list of techniques and things that you want to work on and use this time to work on it so that when there are more fish in the river, you're an even more effective angler in 2, 3, 4, 5 years.
That's right. You can still practice all those techniques and perfect something that you're deficient in. And, a lot of people never have fished a wet fly. I mean, go pick a technique you're not familiar with and start working at it, or whatever it might be, dry fly. If you fish nymphs all the time, or tight line nymphing, which is, so popular all over, it's like, well, move away from that and do something else if you want to become more well-rounded.
Yeah. And so, as we get deeper and deeper into fall, right, I know you just had a casting school. I know you've got a testing event coming up. And I know, we were also talking before we started recording, you have got a pretty full 2025 show schedule. You want to kind of update folks on kind of what you have going on, and if they want to get in touch with you, either to take a class at a show, get on the river with you, take a lesson, what they should do?
Sure. We're going to start out, I think the first one is up in Marlboro, near Boston, and that'll be the first one, and there's classes at all these. But basically all the fly fishing shows I'm going to do except for Lancaster. And then I'm doing the one in St. Paul, Twin Cities in March. And there's a couple other ones right now we're working on that are overseas that I'm thinking I'm going to probably put those in too. So we'll update on that, but probably just looking at the schedule on MattBrownFlyFish.com, because I put the dates and everything where they are, like where we'll be. So that's a good thing in the winter. I really enjoy doing those in the wintertime.
Yeah, absolutely. And, folks, as I always say, you owe it to yourself to get out there and catch a few. Tight lines, everybody. Tight lines, Matt.
Tight lines, Marvin.